welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. I'll be your astrologer today. Thank you for joining me. Back at it with another video. Today we're going to be touching on the colorful transits that are going to be setting up over the next 2 or 3 weeks. This is my hot take on the North Node conjunct Neptune in Pisces. If you guys want to see more of my videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell button below. This will alert you as to when I have new videos, and I'm here every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday using tarot and astrology to make sense of what's going on in the cosmos. All right, so truth be told, if you guys are watching this in mid-January, you're already feeling these energies, but we're going to be feeling this really peak from February 1st through the 8th, 2025. Now, I've got so much info for you guys on this particular alignment, how I think it's going to be manifesting for the collective as well as all of us in our personal lives. And if you stay tuned to the end of the video, I'll take you through the 12 rising signs and we can talk about where this conjunction is happening for you. Now, I want to start today with first talking about the Sabian symbol before I get into anything else. So we'll do that. And I just want to remind you guys that this is happening between 27 and 29 degrees of Pisces. So if you have any personal planets, 27 to 29 degrees of Pisces, sun, moon, rising, a north node, or another planet, this is something that you're really going to want to pay attention to, as well as 27 to 29 degrees of the mutable signs. You guys are going to be feeling this in the effects of a square. So Virgo and Gemini and Sag, you guys are going to be feeling this big time. And obviously we'll talk about what that means when we get to the 12 signs. But let's touch on the Sabian symbol because I feel like this is going to be a really interesting kind of take on this particular conjunction. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with the Sabian symbols, this is a book that we use that is basically a psychic kind of intuitive take on each and every one of the 360 degrees in the zodiac. And it gives us a little bit of food for thought. The conjunction's happening at 28, but I'm going to be reading 29 because we always round up. So 29 degrees of Pisces is a prism. The keyword is validation and the theme is analysis. The symbol speaks to the delicate interplay between the parts of the whole of a thing, and it alludes to the fact that changing or altering the part can affect the ability of the whole to function effectively and maintain its stability. The image of a prism suggests all things and events from different angles, and it illustrates the process of analysis or the attempt to understand how things work and what they can do. The implication here is that any whole can be interpreted through its parts, and every part can be used as a tool to accurately measure the potential of the whole. In many ways, this degree refers to the scientific process, and its goal is to be able to understand, predict, and control. At its highest, it represents keen judgment and highly developed analytical skills. Negative can be intellectual vanity and psychological manipulation. The accent is on analysis. You could find yourself perplexed by some condition or situation or wondering how to validate a hunch that you have. Your greatest advantage lies in being objective and using your reason. Break things down into small parts that are easy to analyze. Look at how each thing affects the other and the parts reflect the whole. Pay attention to the detail. Guard against the temptation to use your knowledge to take unfair advantage or manipulate others for personal gain. Stepping stones are analysis, working parts, perspective, measurement, scientific process, verification, certification, confirmation, validation, insight, intelligence, vision, discernment, and cognition, perception, and spectrum. Okay. Some of the other variations of this Sabian symbol is also like many lights. Lights breaking into many colors as it passes through a prism. So a lot of it talks about like perspective. But when I think about the prism and the light that's going through something, I think about unity and I also think about diversity because you're going to see that there's going to be contrast to some of the colors in the light and you're also going to see some of those kind of blending together. So the idea of unity, like the white light shooting through something, being transformed into like diversity or like a spectrum of colors. So I think it represents like the fundamental truth or essence and how it can manifest in various forms, reflecting, different human experiences, cultures, expressions from one single source. This is also about illumination and understanding. If you think about the light going through the prism, This is really kind of symbolizing the process of gaining insight or knowledge. And as the light passes through, it's not just divided, but also it's revealing something beautiful, something really complex in nature, and suggesting enlightenment or a moment of clarity where we see different facets of reality. Now, this is known to be the Sabian symbol that is associated with a spiritual awakening. So in the context of Pisces, this symbol could signify an awakening where one recognizes kind of like the interconnectedness of all things or of life in general. And the light kind of breaking into colors represents the journey from spiritual ignorance or confusion to a state where one appreciates the diversity of spiritual paths and also of different truths. Now, this is definitely about transformation, as many of the mutable signs are. They're about change and kind of giving way into something new. And here we are dealing with the very last degree of the zodiac. 29 degrees of Pisces gives way to 0 degrees of Aries, where we have a completion, and then we have new life. So I think about like the act of all of like the colors kind of splitting can be seen as like a metaphor for personal transformation, where one's inner light or essence is explored and then expressed in multiple ways. And it can be also about discovering your own spectrum of abilities, emotions, or roles in this life. Now, obviously, there is a need for integration, especially when we think about all of the colors coming together as one and how they kind of form the same light beam. So it can really encourage like a holistic view of life where individual experiences contribute to like a comprehensive understanding or existence. Now, the challenge here, because there is a challenge with the 29 degree, this is a critical degree, is that there's a warning that there can also be like a fragmentation or dispersion of energy if it's not managed well. And there can be too much focus on diversity without recognizing unity, which can also lead to confusion or a lack of direction. So it can go to one extreme or the other. Interesting stuff. The North Node conjunct Neptune in a nutshell. I'll show you guys, like I said, you're feeling it now, but I'll show you right when it starts to conjunct, because there's some interesting stuff that's going to happen that day. So let me take this to February 1st. And like I said, it's going to be the strongest February 1st through the 8th, because we have it just coming into conjunction. And if you guys look on the 1st, the moon is there too. So if there's any takeaway from this, you guys need to start paying attention to what's happening at the beginning of February. Mark your calendar. This is going to be a time that is going to be significantly enlightening or hopelessly and gloriously confusing. And so that's why I create these videos, to kind of help you navigate these transits. Obviously, this is what we would consider a stellium in the sky. We've got 3 or more planets that are moving through one sign. A ton of, heavily focused energy on Pisces. And the truth is that we've had Saturn in Pisces for almost the last 2 years. So you guys, I think, are ready for some of the shifts that are going to be coming with this North Node conjunction. And there will be several North Node conjunctions. The first one we're going to touch on today is Neptune, but Venus will be in the mix, obviously, within about a degree. In a matter of weeks, we're going to see Saturn coming into conjunction with the North Node as well. So you got to know which house Pisces is and the themes revolving around that house. Now, in a nutshell, like I said, the North Node conjunct Neptune, collectively, we're going to see with any transit positive and negative effects, right? So the North Node is going to amplify things. The North Node represents somewhere that we have yet to have been, at least in like the last 18 years. That was the last time we saw the North Node in Pisces. This is where all of us collectively are being realigned and asked to go and to experience. And obviously Pisces is something that is like etheric. It is the element of water, and it's the 12th sign that's traditionally ruled by Jupiter. Now, Jupiter in Pisces has like this connection to the more feminine, psychic, intuitive, receptive side of Jupiter, which is very wise, very abundant, but this is an abundance of emotions, an abundance of feelings, an abundance of sensitivity. Modern day ruler of Pisces is Neptune, so watching the North Node Neptune conjunction is definitely a big one. I'm going to talk about how that's kind of played out in previous historical times. But my prediction for this North Node Neptune conjunction is definitely going to be major spiritual elevation. We are going to see a lot of people who are going to be returning to church. We're going to be getting baptized, specifically people who are going to be focusing on prayer. We're going to see people who are going to have major waves of intuitive things coming up. They're going to be more sensitive, and it's really ushering us into this North Node transit. So, you know, when I look at this, I think about how there's most likely going to be a collective push towards enlightenment. And I think this is going to be like where society's values might lean more on peace and love and understanding, because that's generally what Pisces wants. And we're feeling this even more with Venus in Pisces in her exaltation, where it's just really, really ooey gooey, sensitive, you know, romantic vibes. So it's off the bat, it's not necessarily looking like a negative transit. It's looking like it's probably going to be a significant kind of like artistic renaissance, very dreamy, very emotional, and very compassionate. I'm looking forward to, I think, much more of a focus on probably humanitarian efforts. We're going to see global initiatives aimed at healing, like large-scale charity events and international aid. The logical side of me says this is good because it's going to put more of an emphasis on those who are homeless, those who need physical, financial, or emotional assistance, you know, people who have been struggling with addiction or people who have been struggling with their mental health. Now there is going to be much more of an emphasis in being able to kind of tend to some of these groups. Pisces represents people who are lost, okay? So we're also going to see themes revolving around immigration. We're going to see themes obviously revolving around borders, as Saturn is still in the same sign. So on one hand, you know, the North Node Neptune is be compassionate, help others, give to others. And you got to be kind of careful with the North Node, because the North Node is kind of rolling the dice and you never really know what you're going to get. It's futuristic, it's hard to see, it's foggy and confusing when it's in the sign of Pisces. And I feel like there is going to be this feeling over the next like 2 months of like being in a fishbowl. Some of you guys might be looking at some of the world events being like, this is crazy, what is going on? People are losing their minds. And other people are going to shift more into the compassionate side of this conjunction, and they're going to learn to be like, I forgive you, I understand, how can I help you? But while still maintaining some of those boundaries, because Neptune is going to be in the same sign as Saturn. Now, what do I like about this conjunction, especially with Venus being there? You know, I think this is going to be, like I said, an artistic renaissance. So this will be a period that will go down in modern history that's going to be very significant for art, music, and film. The next 2 or 3 months, we're going to see either some of the most significant creations that are going to start being worked on or built, or things that are going to start being produced and put out there. I think it's going to be really touching on universal themes of spiritual experiences, you know, and anything that is kind of connected to traditional art, as Saturn is there, and also paying homage to older time periods or more classical things. We may also see a huge shift in regards to stuff that's going to be more about projections. We're going to see things that are going to be about etheric, kind of otherworldly places, and possibly even some things that are going to be inspired by the sea. I don't know if you guys have seen the posters. You can sometimes see it behind me when I do my horoscopes, but I'm looking at it as I'm recording this video. The Botticelli photo of the birth of Venus, where you see Venus coming up out of the shell and all of the angels are around her. That's very North Node, Neptune, Venus vibes. It's something that's super beautiful and amazing that's kind of being birthed, that's kind of coming into the collective. That's how I see this. And I think it's going to be also heavily influenced by Jupiter, because Jupiter is the dispositor of Pisces. It's in Gemini, so it's going to be bringing up media, short clips, things revolving around visuals and stuff that's inspiring, that's going to have really rich colors and like good music. On the other hand, you know, there are always pros and cons to every transit, and many astrologers will agree that Neptune can be a little slippery. This is definitely a planet that is known for corruption. It can be about what's going on behind the scenes. It can also be about conspiracies, things that have been hidden, and it does have a direct connection to crime as well as drugs and anything in regards to mental health, prisons, and stuff that's also connected to other realms. I've said several times that Neptune is actually more connected to ghosts than Pluto is. Neptune is about phantoms and things that are apparitions and stuff that appears and things that are kind of in our dreams or in altered states. So with the North Node Neptune, you best believe we are going to see an uptick, and people are going to want more and more and more of Neptune stuff. Drugs, alcohol, you know, that's definitely going to be a theme. Escapism, isolation, it's going to be a theme. But I think that if we are aware of the energies and also aware that shortly after this conjunction, Saturn's going to show up, if things get a little funky, we're going to be able to rein it in, okay? And so I want to remind you guys, you are prepared for this. You have had 2 years of Saturn in Pisces. You had an eclipse in Pisces in September of this last year. So we are already rearing and ready to go for some of these transits. On the negative though, 100% mass confusion, okay? There's gonna be things that you're gonna see on television. There's gonna be things that are gonna be projected. There's gonna be things that are gonna be edited, manipulated, and distorted that are not real. Neptune used to use his like net, or, you know, almost like a fog that would trap or kind of lure people in. He was known for that. So with Neptune's veil, with that conjunction to the North Node, we're likely to see widespread paranoia or confusion. And this can lead to misinformation, conspiracy theories, and a general loss of direction when it comes to global politics and culture. It will be about a month and a half, almost 2 months of just what the heck is going on. We know that we're going to continue to have planets moving through Pisces, and as we get into March, there will be a Venus and a Mercury retrograde, which is going to be unveiling some of the things that are going to be connected to this North Node Neptune conjunction. The astrology with, you know, February and March is incredibly dense. I mean, there would not be so much emphasis and focus on the Pisces area of our chart with the Saturn conjunction to Neptune coming up, with the North Node Neptune conjunction with retrogrades over these degrees, unless, you know, the universe really, really wanted us to get this area of our life straight. So, you know, what you're going to want to watch for is, are you your own worst enemy? Are you oversleeping, over drinking, over binging, hiding out, afraid? Are you not being truthful? Are you not being caring, compassionate? Are there things that you were doing on the sly? You know, keep in mind, Saturn's going to come into this conjunction as well. And we will see Saturn pass through these degrees before it moves into Aries. With Saturn involved in the retrogrades, it's going to be like Carmageddon. We're going to see anything that is negative or potentially not so ethical that's taking place during this time. Eventually, the truth will come out. That will happen, especially because Jupiter is the dispositor and Jupiter is about truth. So you're going to want to watch for, obviously, dependency issues. You know, I think we're going to see, like I said, an increase in escapism, and this will lead to societal issues like addiction and a reliance on, you know, anything that's going to be an escape, right? Any entertainment that's going to be an escape. Watching too much TV, consuming too much, you know, fear-ridden news, obsessively watching things and assuming that that's what's going to kind of be playing out. Now, this can also, I think, lead to like a lack of practicality. I mean, obviously Saturn is close by, so even if things get a little out there, we're going to be able to rein it in. But there can be this tendency to want to disconnect from reality. And this is where like idealism is going to be overshadowing pragmatic action and potentially leading to like unfulfilled promises or initiatives. So I've said to you guys several times, the new year is not going to feel like it's taking off until the second half of April. So as we're sitting in January, February, going into March, you guys are feeling, you know, the shadow. You're going to start feeling the slowdown. So it's okay to spend a little bit more time losing yourself in this area of your chart in order to find some higher meaning, some higher purpose. I think Venus being in the mix does help. We know what this is likely going to be bringing up for individuals, I think, is just profound spiritual insights. You know, individuals may find themselves more attuned to spiritual truths or personal or psychic abilities, you know, though you must take care, you know, not to kind of like lose yourself in fantasy. You know, the other night, it's weird. I had like a for the first time in a really long time, I had like a really strong like gut intuition. Like I literally sat up and I was like, oh my God, something's about to happen. And it's like something that runs in my family. Like my dad has it, I have it. And I haven't had that gut feeling in probably since like 2019. The last time I had it was like right before kind of COVID started at the end of 2019. And I had it and I was like, okay, all right, got it. You know, like I just kind of signaled that I received the message, but it was just this feeling that it wasn't doom. It was just kind of like something really, really, really big is on the horizon. You know, the last time that we had some of the conjunctions that we are about to have in the skies, as we see the sun and Mercury is going to come into Pisces, it's going to dance with Saturn and also with Neptune in the North Node. Very similar conjunctions we saw while we were having COVID in 2020. Okay, so it's pretty fair to say, and I'm not the only astrologer telling you this, we are having something massive happen for the collective over the next 2 months. What? I don't know. I can only speculate, and I can tell you that whatever it is going to put a huge emphasis on Pisces themes. So in your own life and in terms of how this is going to be impacting you, look for this spiritual insight. Where is your gut telling you, hey, I need to make a change here, or, you know, my intuition is telling me something, or I'm kind of needing to meditate on this particular, you know, area, depending on which house Pisces is. You may also feel that you're going to be a little bit more emotionally overloaded because the North Node, like I said, it magnifies things. And with Jupiter being connected to the North Node, we are going to have so many downloads. You're going to see more of your angel numbers. You're going to notice more synchronicities. You're going to be realizing that you're picking up on things before it happens. I had it the other day, and I used to have this all the time, and I haven't had it as much recently, but I got in the car, and before I turned my car on, I started kind of like singing a song to myself. And as soon as I turned the radio on, the song started playing. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, you know, I know that I'm like super intuitive, but I was like, man, I'm just like on one today. It was just one thing after another. So you may notice some of those synchronicities that are kind of popping up for you. Be mindful that there can be more emotional overload though. This sensitivity of Neptune can be overwhelming, and it definitely can lead to emotional exhaustion, you know, needing to sleep more, needing to be alone more, if it's not managed properly, okay? And so that's so much of the theme of, I think, Saturn being kind of in the mix, even if he's coming into conjunction with the North Node at a later point. Saturn is going to be the one that's going to say, and that's been enough. There's been too much of this. We've given too much away. We've been too generous. We've had no boundaries. We've had no borders. And this is where it kind of got us. So we might kind of feel like we have to lose our mind a little bit with the North Node and Neptune before we're actually able to kind of figure out, okay, how can we now create a strong kind of basis where we can kind of focus on reality, which is not easy to do in Pisces. The other thing that you're probably going to notice is that you guys are going to have an increase in vivid dreams, okay? Vivid dreams, if you're somebody who has visions, you know, visions might be kind of coming through in meditation, which can be both really enlightening, but it can also be incredibly confusing. I've noticed also an uptick in that recently, a number of dreams that are very specific and very symbolic. And so I've kind of looked at it and gone like, all right, well, clearly there's something kind of going on with the collective where everybody is starting to kind of shift and become a little bit more receptive. So watch for some of those kind of intuitive things that are going to kind of spike up. Now, to work with this transit, right, the truth is that the North Node says we have to take a deep dive here, quite literally with Pisces, into things that are going to be more spiritual, into things that are going to be more sensitive, creative, empathic. It's going to also be about, with Venus in the mix, universal love, right? Sacrificing for what we love, what we're willing to kind of pour our hearts and souls into. So, you know, you're going to probably benefit from having an artistic outlet. You can channel these feelings into creative expression, you know, for mental health and clarity. Art, music, writing, dance can be wonderful ways to do that with Venus in Pisces. But you do want to have spiritual discipline. This is going to be about engaging in structured spiritual practices that kind of harness Neptune's energy constructively. I think of like Saturn, Neptune, Venus, and the North Node is like, okay, you want to learn how to paint? Go and take a painting class and like work with a teacher or a professor or somebody who's going to show you exactly how to be able to get all of those intricate kind of shadings and lines and everything on a canvas, right? If you want to learn how to play an instrument, then you're going to go and you're going to work with a teacher or somebody who is going to teach you exactly how to hold the instrument, how to hit the notes, how to be able to read things, and how to really feel into the music, the rhythm. So this can be a wonderful time for these things. It's also a time that I would say everybody will really benefit from self-reflection. using this time for deep introspection, like journaling, or, you know, working with a therapist, working with a hypnotherapist, working with a healer, getting a reading. All of these things can kind of help you tap into those sometimes kind of like otherworldly energies of Pisces, where it seems hard to kind of ground out that information and make it real. Pisces represents what's going on in the ethers before something becomes born, right? Before something becomes visible, before it rises. Think of this as like the cocoon phase before a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. As we move from February, March into April, May, June, and these planets start to slip into Aries, we are going to see that after some kind of mass confusion, some mass spiritual, you know, awakening, some mass kind of global event, we are reborn, and we're going to be more independent. We're going to be stronger. We're going to have new goals. We've really kind of put the past behind us. So much about 2025 is literally about wrapping up cycles, closing things out. And the 12th house can represent past lives and things that have to do with our karma, especially with Saturn being there. So there is some like major karmic reckoning that's coming for all of us collectively, and it's going to be lessons that are going to help us kind of enlighten the soul. Now, I really recommend practicing boundaries. Learn to set and respect personal boundaries and emotional boundaries to protect yourself from Neptune's more deceptive qualities. I will not lie to you guys, okay? Venus, Neptune, North Node, scams are going to be everywhere, especially scams in relationships where people are taking people's money and they're sending photos and pictures and telling them that they're in love with them, just send them things or buy them things, and then you find out that you're getting catfished. Scams involving art is definitely another thing that we're going to see, where people are supposedly buying things that are precious and rare and stuff that could be real jewelry, and then you find out it's fake jewelry. It can be, you know, counterfeit. Counterfeit stuff is very connected to Neptune. Counterfeit luxury products can be something else that we can see as well. I'm anticipating that throughout this pre-retrograde shadow, we're going to hear something about a major counterfeit exposure, you know, situation, or something connected to like illegal labor practices for some major name brand that perhaps gets exposed. I'm anticipating there's going to also be some breaking news revolving around some really popular pharmaceuticals that we're probably going to hear some stuff about as well, as Pisces is connected to that. And this is the first time that I've said this, but I will say this because I believe this is what's going to happen. When Venus and Mercury go retrograde, I think you guys are going to find out that there was some major benefit, right? That there was some kind of like nonprofit or, you know, philanthropy type group that's going out and they're saying, well, we're going to raise money for, you know, cleaning up the oceans, cleaning up the beaches, for getting water to, you know, countries where people are literally, you know, starving, or they have no clean water, or incentives to raise money to rebuild areas that have been destroyed. So think of like what's happened in the South with the floods. Think of what's happened in Los Angeles with the fires. I think you're going to see some really big people come out that are going to be promoting or pushing, raising funds for some of these things. And we're going to find out it's a huge fucking scam. Huge. Think about what was coming up in Lahaina when we saw like Oprah and The Rock and all those people who were involved. And like, there's always these big benefits that you hear about, like well-known people, celebrities, politicians getting involved in some of these things, even like the Red Cross, right? Like some of these groups that in your mind you think, okay, this is good, it's going to be supporting this cause, only to find out that there's about to be a huge scam with one of these things. So could it be some of the events that have already happened? Probably. Could it be that there's another event coming and they're going to try to get everybody on board and say, hey, you know, support to this cause, make a sacrifice to this cause? Be very, very careful. Be very careful. Know who you're going to be donating to. Know who you're going to be giving your personal information to, because I think that this is going to be very much kind of connected to this. I think that this is also because it's influenced by Jupiter, and Jupiter is in Gemini. So Jupiter is in a sign where it's debilitated. It's in its opposite sign, and it's retrograde. And Jupiter, when it's in Gemini, it's enhancing or amplifying the need for communication. Okay, so Jupiter can be kind of bouncing off of all this Pisces, saying communicating and expressing spiritual matters. But it might bring misunderstandings or overcomplications to spiritual concepts. Now, North Node Neptune is very, for me, also like very culty vibes. Like we can definitely see a lot of people that are like wanting to get involved in secret societies, or they're wanting to like join the Freemasons, or they're wanting to join these like private kind of like cults and groups, because, well, Neptune does deal with cult leaders. So we may also see some huge exposure of something that's going on that is like a cult-like spiritual or religious type of group, that there is disclosure about that. And, you know, Jupiter in Gemini definitely has two sides, two perspectives. It can kind of be a little, you know, kind of two-faced. And there can be this sense of trying to convince people to conspire with them through social media, or trying to get them to kind of join in their thoughts or their kind of beliefs, and it can like make people like crazed. So we're definitely going to see possibly content in media and things that are going to be persuading large groups of people that there is this crazy, chaotic situation to get involved and to cause a problem. So also be very careful and very mindful of where your news and your information is coming from, because it may potentially be trying to target you because of your specific area, maybe your demographic, your gender, your age, and trying to kind of placate on some of those things that might trigger you. So one of the best things you can do is turn off your television, stop watching TV, go and watch a movie, ideally that's like, you know, sometime before 1990. Play some old reruns of, you know, old TV shows if you must, but be very careful of like newer media and stuff that's going to be coming out, because I'm convinced there's going to be a lot of predictive programming and things that are really going to startle the masses. Now, this is a wonderful time, I think, with Jupiter's connection for learning and also like adapting, because the retrograde is about rethinking or revising our beliefs or our education or how we communicate. So some of you guys might say, well, I'm going back to reading my old spiritual books. I'm going back to learning yoga. I'm going back to meditation. I'm going back to church, whatever it is you want to do. But mass numbers of people, because they're going to be so confused and they're not going to understand what's going on, they're going to be citing and referencing spiritual and religious texts. They will be reinterpreting it. We are going to be seeing some kind of push or movement to maybe even update certain things. So I'm like thinking like, okay, with all the news with like the 10 Commandments that they were talking about, I think like a year ago, about updating, or, you know, any of that stuff. Are we going to see some of those changes? Are we going to see religious kind of leaders push for some updates or some edits of some religious or spiritual texts? Maybe. I think this is also going to be about, you know, understanding ideas, because there's going to be this push towards, you know, more spiritual knowledge or new philosophies. But because Jupiter is retrograde, it could not pick up as quickly. Like we could see some people like not really understand some of the spiritual practices, and they're kind of lost and they're confused. And maybe it's going to be about spiritual practices that are more reflective rather than kind of like preaching and kind of like teaching to people. And I do think Jupiter retrograde creates some doubt or some kind of second thoughts. I have caught myself doing this already since the North Node moved into Pisces. It was like I had that feeling and I tried to shake it off, and I was like, it's not a big deal. I'm just like forgive myself out. And then it kept coming back. And I was like, no, I need to say something, or I need to write this down, or I need to make a note of this, you know? So you may notice that with the retrograde connection, there is this sense of doubt or skepticism when it comes to what you're being told, or when it comes to like spiritual paths or teaching, which, you know, it could refine your understanding, or it could lead to confusion, you know, during this conjunction. Now, the frequency of the North Node Neptune conjunction is interesting, because we only see this happen roughly about every 17 years, that the North Node will conjunct Neptune. That's because the North Node, you know, changes signs about every 2 years. But we actually have not had a North Node Neptune conjunction in some time. It's been quite a while since we've seen this, and I'll get into that in a second. Now, in recent years, when we had a North Node Neptune conjunction, the last one was actually in May of 2008. And this is the last conjunction that we had, and it happened in Aquarius. And then the time before that, we had October of 1991. This was happening in Capricorn. So you can go back in time, you can look at those years, you can even go, you know, 17 years prior to 1991, and you can go and look at every single one of those and see where it's happened. But that North Node Neptune is saying like, okay, it's time to dissolve this, or it's time to feel our way into this, or it's time to be inspired by this. It depends on what sign Neptune is in. Obviously, Neptune's in its own sign, so it's going to be playing with home field advantage. So it's definitely going to have a lot more capability of being able to lean on the more spiritual, kind of sensitive, creative, compassionate side. And really what it's aiming to do is it's dissolving the boundaries of idealism. It's about spiritual awakening, opening up to our destiny and our path for the next year and a half with the North Node in Pisces. This is a powerful, but it's also a creative time. And I think it's about collective evolution. And really it's here to help us kind of focus on how we can communicate and understand other people. And the need to also have a little bit of caution and reflect on some of these lessons that we're sharing with other people. Now, like I said, we're going to see when the North Node Neptune is aligning, Venus is there. So this is completely, unusual. To have the North Node conjunct Neptune only happens every 17 years. Then you have one that's going to have Venus there. And then you're going to have one that's going to have the moon coming into conjunction with Venus and Neptune. Not a bad conjunction off the bat. The Venus-Neptune moon is actually pretty sweet. I was reading up on the archetypal universe on the combination of the moon, Venus, and Neptune. And I was like, okay, we need some good news. I'm going to read this to you guys. So the principles of the moon, Venus, Neptune conjunction is feelings of tender and grace, kindness, sweet love, devotion, romantic, emotional fulfillment, delicate, ethereal beauty. 10 tendencies towards passive weakness or laziness, romantic deception or confusion, codependent enmeshment, a yin to the point of being gooey or oozing, yin sweetness and greatness, tender grace, compassion, loving acceptance, a mystical beauty and cuteness, magnetic charisma, charm, the ability to let go and enjoy, ecstatic coziness, cocooning, exquisite inner satisfaction, platonic love, a peaceful and loving family life, tender mothering, mother-daughter bonding, the beautiful maternal womb, love and devotion received directly through the inner life, feelings of higher devotion, worship the divine feminine, an opening to the beautiful, compassionate goddess, sweet oceanic feelings, melted ecstasy, a dreamy imagination of yin or female art, deeply experienced beauty, aesthetic, rupture, music melts all the separate parts of the bodies together. The tendencies towards passive weakness or laziness, a native who has impressionability, romantic confusion or deception, unrealistic romantic fantasies, feeling of courtly love, a tendency to slide easily into unwise romantic involvements, weakness against temptation, codependent enmeshment, a refusal to love the realm of the mother, yin behavior to the point of being ooey gooey, identification with the persona of a sex kitten, aesthetic narcissism, and self-absorption. Okay, so you guys can see how it goes to one of those two things. Now, Venus conjunct Neptune in itself is not necessarily a bad thing. I think that it is at 27, so it's at a Gemini degree, so it's going to be kind of touching on, things might sound really good. Things might be projected in a way that's, oh, this is going to be amazing, and I'm going to give you this, and we're going to have that, and like lots of talking about what things could be. But we'll see as Saturn comes up and then the retrogrades happen, are people actually backing up what they're saying? Are financial kind of transactions and investments really as good as they say they are? Are we being kind of like blindfolded from some of the things that may be presented over the next couple of months, where there's actually a dissolving and a breakdown of certain financial systems, or a dissolving or a breakdown of certain borders, or dissolving and a breaking down of society? I think that it's going to sound really good, some of the things and the ideas that are being proposed, but then when reality sets in and Saturn comes into conjunction with this degree and we see the retrogrades, people are going to be shocked by just how much change I think is going to be happening in the world, and realistically what that might mean. Pisces is also about taking time to be alone and to, kind of be in isolation. So it teaches you, I think, all of the things that you can do with that private time, and how sweet life can be kind of behind the scenes if you're kind of lost in your own little world or in your cocoon. If not, then you're kind of feeling like you can't find love, you can't find resources, you're alone, you're isolated, and you need more. And it can kind of create this mopey vibe with Saturn there, which can really push people to make some of probably the best albums, some of the best poetry, some of the most amazing movies and shows, but it's going to be things that are really going to tug at your heartstrings. Now, the Venus and Mercury retrograde, like I said, it's going to go over these degrees. And I'm working on a webinar for you guys on this right now. But to show you what I'm talking about, Venus will turn retrograde at the beginning of March. And Venus and Mercury are going to retrograde over these degrees. So you're going to see this happen right around the end of March. Venus is going to pop in, hit this degree again. Mercury is going to pop in, hit this degree again. And then you're going to see Venus sit with Saturn into early April. And then Saturn is going to come into conjunction with this degree. Crazy, right? Absolutely crazy. So February, March, April, it's like you have to know exactly where the late degrees of Pisces are in your chart, because the universe is like, we're going to get this right. And I think what's interesting is that while all of this is happening, at least Jupiter is going to be turning direct. So in February, we're going to be able to communicate, express. Maybe those of us who have had like writer's block or creative blocks or issues in communicating our feelings, or even moving forward with like relationships, maybe we're going to feel like we're opening up a little bit. But when I took a look at this, I was like, man, 29 degrees of Pisces is quite literally the beginning of the end. That's literally what 29 degrees of Pisces is, the beginning of the end. So you're going to want to look at that particular house, and you're going to want to ask yourself, how can I, kind of feel more inspired? How can I feel more creative in this area? What do I need to lovingly dissolve? Where do I need to spend a little bit more time or a little bit more focus? How can I learn to serve this area of my chart and find ways to be able to make lemonade? I think that's like the best advice I can give you guys. I think what's challenging, on the other side of this is all happening conjunct a fixed star called Shiat, which is pretty much exactly how it sounds. And this is a star that is known for having just issues in general. This particular star, here we go. So with this star, the general themes are kind of connected to the planetary nature of Mars and Mercury, sometimes Saturn. So we don't have Saturn there, we don't have Mars, we don't have Mercury there, but it's going to have those themes. We know Mars is about aggression and combative energy. We know Mercury is like mental communication, and it can be about restlessness. And Saturn is about limitation or hardship or karmic lessons. So, in traditional astrology, Shiat is seen as like an unfortunate star, and it's often associated with some more negative themes. So with the North Node hitting that star and Neptune being there, we're going to see more of the effects of the star that's going to be happening collectively over the next 3 months. Now, this is approximately 29 degrees and change of Pisces. So the North Node will move off of there pretty soon. But like I said, Neptune's going to hit that, Saturn's going to hit that, and we're going to see that kind of off and on all year. Now, the general themes, obviously, because they're more misfortunate, they're actually connected to danger relating to water. They're connected to drowning incidents. I've seen this star on the ascendant in certain aspects in terms of progressions for clients who have experienced drowning issues, or they've had loved ones that have drowned. I've also seen this very much tied to flooding incidents. We know with the last eclipse that we had in Pisces in September, right around that time is when we saw a really significant flood. So listen to me when I tell you guys, okay? It's not always literal. Sometimes astrology is literal, but sometimes it's figurative. Drowning in emotions, drowning in alcohol, drowning in depression, drowning in the area of your chart. For example, mine's in the 6th house, and it's like, oh, I'm drowning in work, Thankful to have it, but that's how it's kind of felt for me. And so it's made me approach things in a way where I'm like, okay, I need to go about it in a more kind of, intuitive way, and not feel like it has to be so, perfect and having everything together. It's more like, okay, I know this information, get in front of the camera. Don't focus so much on the notes, just like tell them exactly what they need to hear. And that's very South Node in Virgo, by the way. That South Node in Virgo is very much focusing on detail, analytics, making it perfect, making everything cookie cutter and clean and presentable. And the North Node in Neptune is basically saying life is messy. Healing is not linear. It's not. And there's going to be moods, and there's going to be times where you're going to feel like you're exhausted and you can't get out of bed and you need to sleep. So if it's not actual drowning incidents, which we will see for some people, especially if you have planets around those degrees, there can be issues with accidents with violence. I've seen a historical association with accidents, particularly those leading to violent or sudden ends. Emotional or psychological challenges are connected to the star. So like stubbornness, mood swings are kind of connected to the combative nature associated with Mars, and potential for mental health issues. I have also seen, trigger warning, major upticks in people who have had issues with suicide. You know, suicidal ideation, people who have had family members or loved ones that are going through that, people who are just slowly isolating themselves. And like 29 degrees of Pisces is like, I just want to escape. I just want to melt away. I just want it to go away. And so we're going to see some people that are going to be really struggling with their mental health. And the best thing I can tell you is working with somebody who can help you. So there is going to be also an uptick of people who want to help, who are going to be getting involved in therapy, who are going to be getting involved in healing. There is going to be a large number of people who are going to be out there to help. So it's important that you're talking to your friends, your family, your loved ones, you're reaching out. You know that it's okay to ask for help, that, you know, everybody kind of goes through things at one point or another, and that we will make it through the other side of some of these transits once we kind of get past the spring. Now, when we have transits to this degree, right? So that 29 degrees. So if you talk about the transits going on, we have the North Node there, Neptune is there, Venus is there, and then we will see on February 1st, the moon will hit all of these degrees right around the same time. Saturn's nearby too. So just with the North Node conjunction, you know, this is basically saying it's a period where the collective personal karmic lessons involving loss, sacrifice, and transformation through adversity is prominent. Overcoming, right? Having faith, believing, having some kind of spiritual practice or something that says that, you know, you're going to be able to make it through this. When it comes to world events, you know, we're going to see increased natural disasters. I hope I'm wrong, but I do believe that we are going to see some really significant stuff, especially those involving water. Significant societal shifts concerning mental health, addiction, or loss as well. You know, with this transit, it brings about challenging times, and it's really about growth through adversity and learning from our past mistakes. Now, I have seen previous transits where there's been like the Venus, Saturn, Venus, Moon, you know, it can be kind of highlighting older women in leadership. It can be also highlighting, you know, some significant artist or some significant performer who maybe is having a major, you know, psychological issue or breakdown, or we might hear about somebody who's found drowned in a bathtub or somebody who has overdosed. I'm highly expecting to see that during this transit. It's really unfortunate because these late degrees are definitely very mysterious, and likely we're not going to see a lot of reasons why some of these things happen, and there can be definitely some kind of either conspiracy or cover-up that are connected to these events. Now with the Neptune conjunction, which is even more unusual when you think about Neptune's cycle, which is like, I think 162 years, this is even more significant because you've got, you know, this degree that's kind of conjunct, you know, the planet in its ruling sign. So this is where we're seeing issues with illusion and reality, and this can amplify illusion, idealism, escapism, especially concerning themes of danger, misfortune, or an emotional turmoil. So you might be thinking you're going into situations and you're like, the weather says it's fine, or like it's not that much rain, or, you know, the storm is not going to go this way. I think we're going to be fine. And then we're going to realize for some people, it's going to be like, oh my God, it gave misleading information, or, you know, it presented to be safe, but it wasn't safe. And on the other end of the spectrum, literally with the Sabian symbol, you might be seeing things on TV that's like, there's fires everywhere, there's floods everywhere, all these things are happening, and you're like, oh my God, I can't leave my home, this is scary. And then you're going to find out it was all fake. You know, seriously, you guys are going to see some of this stuff. So it can go to one extreme or the other. I think that with the conjunction for world events, basically, I've been putting out the word that this is going to herald one of the biggest mass deceptions we will see. And COVID was a big one, but we're going to see something very significant happen from this conjunction to a water-related event or a surge in mystical or spiritual movements that can heal or mislead you. Go and look up Project Bluebeam. That's all I can say about that. And also be mindful and be aware that you know, there is going to be some kind of agenda or some kind of an incentive to convince people that what is happening is real. And you're going to just have to take a step back, take a breath, close your eyes and ask yourself, is this real to me? Can I trust this? I mean, there's a huge potential for disillusionment and really emotionally overwhelming experiences that are going to happen with this conjunction. With Venus conjunct Shiat, you know, the themes are going to be about love and loss. And Venus touching on the star is going to highlight themes of challenging environments, you know, relationships ending in sorrow or some kind of tragedy. World events will coincide with cultural movements or art that reflects pain, loss, or the darker side of beauty, or a significant scandal involving public figures or celebrities, particularly those who are going to jail or who are going to be exposed for some of their sexual crimes, as Venus and Neptune can be known for sexual abuse. It's a huge topic. You know, Saturn is also the traditional dispositor of Pluto, and it's kind of in the mix with all of these placements, so I am anticipating that as well. Now, like I said, you know, this can be some heavy stuff, right? Natural disasters, public tragedies, cultural shifts, mental health awareness. I guess the question is this conjunction good or bad? Good or bad, I think, is all like relative. You know, Shiat can be a more difficult kind of, you know, malefic star due to its association with hardship and misfortune. But like all astrological influences, the impact is going to be based on the entire context of your chart. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to impact you this way. I think that the potential for growth, even if it's challenging in nature, is going to present us or society with the necessary growth, resilience, and deeper understanding that we need. Now, to navigate this, just be patient. Know that there's going to be some limitations. There's going to be some retrogrades also that are kind of bringing some stuff up, and you're going to have to work with it for about a month and a half. Now, the last time that we had the North Node Neptune conjunction in Pisces was actually January of 1858. Okay, so that was the last time that we had this, and it looks like it was happening right around 20 degrees of Pisces. So different star. Also, there was all kinds of planets in different places: Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter. You know, we had Uranus and Taurus. That's one thing that Neptune and Uranus tend to do, is they'll make similar aspects to each other in their cycles. But that was the last time we had this conjunction. Now, obviously, we were not alive then. But I did a little research into what was kind of going on at that time. And what was really pivotal with the first half of 1958 is there was huge shifts that were kind of going on in the United States. Later that year, we saw Abraham Lincoln's House Divided speech, super famous speech. This was on June of 1858, and Lincoln delivered this famous speech in Illinois, warning of a divided nation over slavery. Right? And so obviously North Node Neptune can be talking about that prism that's like, we see all of these different colors and all of these things, but it's also all a part of the same kind of beam of light, right? We're all coming from the same source. We're all kind of connected, and we're all like a part of humanity. We're all together, regardless of our culture, our religion, our gender, all of those things. We are all part of the human race. So I found that was interesting, because the North Node Neptune here was talking about kindness, compassion, and kind of opening our hearts and being able to see that we are all one. Interesting that when this happened, we saw Saturn retrograde in Cancer, but this is right around where Mars is hovering right now. Mars is actually hovering in aspect to the North Node of Neptune in a very same way, saying, hey, we need to think about the past. We need to think about where we've been. We need to make changes on our home front. We need to make changes emotionally in our home country so we can be more kind, compassionate, and caring to other people. We also saw the Marius massacre in spring of that year. There was a pro-slavery force that was attacked by anti-slavery settlers in Kansas. And this is one of the more prominent kind of highlights that kind of led up to the Civil War. Now, in terms of what happened in other parts of the world, in the United Kingdom, we had something called the Great Stink. I had never heard about this, but I was like, that's kind of so appropriate for Neptune because it deals with water. This is in London, where the hot summer months of that year of July and August, it basically exacerbated the odor from the River Thames. And this led to significant public health concerns and eventually pushing for major sanitation reforms, because people were just dumping their waste, dumping sewage, all kinds of trash and things into the water, and it became polluted and it became unhealthy and like toxic. which is obviously connected to like North Node Neptune. You don't know what's in the water. It's not healthy. It's not safe. You can't consume it. It's not safe to be in, to wash. And so some of these topics might be kind of coming up again. This time around, obviously Neptune does deal with water, specifically more so kind of like the ocean, but also like we can see rivers kind of connected to Pisces. We can also see themes revolving around drinking water and water contamination. And possibly, you know, with this transit, I think we're going to see some big public water scare. I think that what we've seen already with the scarcity issues or the reported scarcity issues in California is only the beginning. I'm assuming that there could potentially be some kind of threat revolving around water companies and power companies, or the health of water, or things that could be contaminated. So I've been saying this from the rooftops since Saturn went into Pisces: get water testing strips. Know what's in your water. Check your water. Check it once, you know, a month. Check it once a week, however you want to do it. Fill a glass, put a strip in it. You guys can get them on Amazon. They're super affordable. I have a whole Saturn and Pisces survival guide list in my links in the description below if you want to see the kind of products that I use. We also saw in the UK the launch of the SS Grant Great Eastern, and this was January of that year, so it was just later in the month when the conjunction happened. The SS Great Eastern was at the time the largest ship that was ever launched in the river there in London. And they also had the Medical Act of 1858, and this act was passed to regulate qualifications of practitioners in medicine and surgery, making it a significant step forward to the professionalization of medicine. Interesting. I think we're up for a review on that as well. Obviously, that this was in the UK, but is there going to be disclosure and new, you know, information coming out about the medical industry, about how it's tied to big pharma, how it's tied to insurance companies, how everything is tied to basically, you know, make you sick and tired? Do we need to have an update to the qualifications for the medical system? Are we going to see people leaving the medical system in droves? Maybe. Now, we also saw just after this conjunction, or actually it was right around the time of this conjunction, we saw in 1857, so it was leading up to this, but the effects were still being felt in 1858, the financial crisis of 1857 and 1858. So this was also known as the Panic of 57. It was considered one of the most severe economic downturns in the United States before the Great Depression. So before we had that big dump that we had in the 20s, this was known as one of the bigger depressions that we've had, and it was characterized by bank failures, railroad bankruptcies, and a significant drop-off in commodity prices. And in 1858, economies were still recovering, with some regions expecting and experiencing continued or even worsened economic distress. Now, this went on for several years. We also saw around 1858 the railroad expansion, and you know, that continued to expand you know, the rail network in the United States. It was crucial for economic development, and obviously it facilitated trade and movement of goods. And so I think about that connection, because Pisces can be about connecting us to the collective. So that was another one. We also had the gold rush that was taking place in California in 1858. People were going there in droves because they were chasing their dreams of being able to find wealth and, you know, being able to capture all the gold. And it began to really influence economic growth in the Pacific Northwest, and the movement and the people had significant implications for regional economies, promoting infrastructure and developing and creating new markets. So that's interesting. We also saw the industrialization of Britain. So obviously, you know, after the Great Stink, you know, which was a major public health issue, I think that played into some of the problems that were going on in large public spaces, connecting to sanitation, and it really in turn stimulated the economy through job creation and construction. And we saw particularly in textiles and steel that became a little bit more prominent. And then last but not least, we saw the transatlantic telegraphic cable. So in 1858, we saw the initial attempt to lay the telegraph cable, and it was short-lived in its success, but it was a monumental step forward towards global economic connectivity. The cable did fail after its initial operation, and the concept was basically about being able to revolutionize international commerce by enabling near instantaneous communication across the Atlantic. So it was like the first step towards, you know, getting messages like back and forth. You know, Neptune can deal with what's going on under the sea and kind of going and exploring places and things that we have never been before. So I found that kind of interesting as well. Anyway, so these are some of the connections from the last time we saw the North Node conjunct Neptune in Pisces. I now want to take you guys into making some of my predictions for the 12 rising signs. As always, I'm a Western astrologer. That's the astrology that I like to practice. Let's see, let's put this back here. And I will be doing the predictions from the perspective of Western whole signs. So I always recommend that you guys listen to your whole sign, rising sign first, and then you're going to want to listen to your sun and your moon sign. The sun sign is going to kind of connect more to your career and your happiness or your identity, and then the moon sign is going to, you know, really impact your emotions and also what's going on with your home or your family life. But the rising is the one that you're going to want to listen to. This is happening between 27 and 29 degrees of Pisces. So if you have any personal planets there, pay attention. If you want to use my predictions for Placidus, just look at which house 28, 29 degrees of Pisces is at. And that's going to be the rising sign that you're going to want to listen to. And you may have to listen to more than one. And I'll pull some tarot cards for you guys too, because I feel like we're all a little lost during this transit and we're like, what the heck does it mean? So it can be helpful to get a little bit more intuitive insight here. Okay. All right. So we're going to start obviously with my Aries and my Aries risings. All right. So what's up, Aries and Aries risings? Hope you guys are well. You're going to be experiencing the North Node Neptune conjunction, which will be taking place in the sign of Pisces in your natal 12th house. Okay. So specifically, my advice for you guys, you know, the themes in regards to this North Node Neptune conjunction, obviously spiritual groups, collective dreams, friendships, maybe, you know, things kind of connecting to, you know, an awakening that can be happening. I say friendships because like Venus is there. So it can be some kind of connection maybe to like other people. But spiritual awakening, karmic resolutions, merging with the collective unconsciousness. You know, I've been talking to like a lot of Aries risings, and you guys have been telling me like, I just want to hide away. I'm just overwhelmed. I just feel like I need to be alone. It's because you have so many of these planets that are in your 12th house, and it's because your chart ruler Mars is retrograde. Anyway, watch for escapism, isolation, or being overwhelmed by the subconscious. To navigate this better, you want to embrace solitude for spiritual practice, but balance it with real world engagement. Now, the ruler of this conjunction, the dispositor, is Jupiter, and it's in the 3rd house. So I kind of feel like journaling behind the scenes, watching your favorite old TV shows, maybe it can be going back over things that you have written or returning to like spiritual books or spiritual practices can be really helpful in helping you navigate this time. The card that I got for you is the 5 of Swords. So the 5 of Swords is a card that deals with like conflict, disagreements, competitiveness, feeling like there is some kind of defeat situation that's happening. You might feel like you are just needing to kind of be alone and rest and recover from something, or you can just feel like the world is kind of combative right now. And you're like, man, I just kind of like need to slow down. And this is also about learning to not fight fire with fire, because this card can be about trying to win at all costs and like learning to be more compassionate towards other people, even if they're being kind of fierce with you. Okay. All right. So let's take this to Taurus and Taurus rising. What's up, Taurus? You're going to be experiencing this transit of the North Node Neptune in your natal 11th house. So obviously this is like your networks, your groups, your friends, your goals. This can be about socializing parties. It can be about joining spiritual groups. It can also be about your dreams when it comes to your finances and the money that you make from your work. I think for a lot of you guys, it's going to be about really looking at friendships based on higher ideals, like wanting to be around people who are going to be genuinely good people, wanting to find your tribe, wanting to find people that you can kind of connect with and vibe with. What you want to watch for is like losing yourself in groups, unrealistic aspirations, or being misled by your peers. This can also be a placement where it's like you got some friends that are kind of going off the deep end a little bit. So whether they're struggling emotionally or mentally, or there can be some issues with like addiction, or some friends that just seem like they're kind of crazy, watch out for that. I think to navigate this, it's about engaging with communities that are going to foster personal growth. Maintain individual dreams. Don't get kind of caught up in what other people are doing or what other people think you should be doing. Look for people who are going to be focusing on healing, like, you know, joining a meditation group, a yoga class, joining an online spiritual community, like things like that can be really good for you, especially because Venus is going to be in the mix and that's your chart ruler. So I feel like it can be a time where you're connecting with people who can be very culturally different and unique. The card that I got for you is the Two of Cups. Okay, so this is a relationship card. It's a partnership card. It can be a card that's about an offering. And this can be about coming together with another person, partnership, relationship, close bonds, and really fostering new connections. Okay, so opportunities to maybe find love in some of these places socially, or opportunities for you to be able to kind of find like-minded people who are going to be very warm and generous. All right, so we've got Gemini and Gemini rising. You guys will experience the North Node Neptune conjunction taking place in the sign of Pisces. And that's going to be happening in your natal 10th house, which is all about your career, your public image. Obviously, the themes here are going to be about responsibility, your identity out in the world, how people see you. And I think this is going to be about spiritual leadership, maybe entering into a career of healing or the arts, or a public image as a healer. And some of you guys really just want to watch for delusion about your public role and like martyrdom in your career. That can definitely come up, feeling like you're making too many sacrifices for others. And you want to focus on navigating by aligning your career with spiritual values, but keeping your boundaries clear with other people, right? That's really going to be important for you. It's interesting that Jupiter is the dispositor of this conjunction and it's in your sign. So it's like, how big do you think your career can grow? Just what do you think you're capable of doing? Do you believe in yourself? Do you believe you have the capability of making this change? Do you believe that you can find the job of your dream, you know, or is it kind of manifesting and showing up for you? For some of you guys, that might be the case. All right, so the card that you get is the World card, which is kind of cool because this is like a card that's about completing cycles and wrapping things up and like learning certain lessons. And maybe this is about learning that you've gone through so many kind of trials and issues with your career that like finally you're like, I'm putting that behind me. I don't want to struggle anymore. I finally want to get to a point where I'm on the top or I'm getting recognition. And also seeing the bigger picture. And this is about like things harmonizing and kind of coming together for you. So this might be actually a really significant turning point where you're about to have, I think, a career breakthrough and you're like, is this too good to be true? Good luck, Gemini. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. You're going to experience the North Node Neptune conjunction in the sign of Pisces in your 9th house. So that'll be happening for you, obviously, in a fellow sister water sign. So it is friendly, especially if you have like a late degree Cancer or Cancer rising. You will be experiencing trines, which are a little bit more emotional and sensitive in nature. So the 9th house obviously is about your beliefs, higher learning. It's about traveling, working with teachers or mentors, higher education, and your philosophy about life. This is a good luck kind of positive house as well. So for you guys, I'm seeing some kind of spiritual enlightenment, opportunity for mystical journeys and dissolving some of your dogmatic beliefs. Watch for old spiritual beliefs, and when they come up, if you're like, you know, not willing or resistant to be open to something new. Some of you guys will choose escapism through travel or through philosophy or through education. Some of you guys might have a new, teacher or some kind of mystical, practitioner that can kind of come into your life. And one thing I would just watch for is just, expand beliefs through genuine spiritual exploration, remain open to learning. Like there is a need to like learn things. It could be about cultures. It can be about religion. It can be about spirituality, even higher education that you've never imagined. Some of you guys might be going and planning a trip with these conjunctions. You might be visiting a foreign land. There might be a graduation or a ceremony that's happening. It can also be that you're considering, learning more about art or mysticism. with this conjunction. The card that you get is the Ten of Swords, okay, which is interesting because the moon is involved. So like with moon conjunct Neptune and Venus, you know, is there some disappointment maybe that may be kind of coming in regards to these topics? Maybe, you know, you go and you start a course or you start learning something and then you're like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was. And you'll use the retrograde and the eclipses to make a change. Could it mean that this is like an ending of a cycle? So maybe you have believed something for so long and then suddenly, you know, you're kind of like awakened to some new belief system and it feels almost like you're having like a religious or like a spiritual crisis. And you're like, everything I always thought is like wrong, you know, and like now there's something new and like trying to kind of recover from like that shift. But with tens, there's always this completion. It just looks like maybe there's just some anxiousness or anxiety about your path and your purpose. But I do believe that it's going to be unveiled to you during some of the retrogrades and the eclipses in the spring. All right, so we've got Leo and Leo rising. You'll experience the North Node Neptune conjunction in your 8th house. And for you, Leo, this is the house of transformation. It's about shared resources like debt, insurance, investments, and you know, joint money that you have with a partner. This is also about psychology and healing, though. So, you know, the themes are going to be about deep psychic connections, spiritual inheritance, and healing through shared resources. Some of you guys might have some confusion revolving around joint resources. Maybe there's some power struggles masked by like spiritual motives or financial manipulation. Watch for embracing transformation with awareness and be clear in all shared financial dealings. Truth be told, Leo and Leo rising, you guys are more prone to have some kind of deception with money. And it can be something going on with your partner's money, something they're getting, they're inheriting, questioning whether or not you're going to be receiving some support or some kind of loan. Not making sense of like a financial document or form that might come in. That's possible. But this is also really good for like diving deep and learning about occultism, mysticism, intuitive development. A lot of you guys are going to be really attracted to things on hypnotherapy, past lives, and past life regression. Therapy in general, anything in regards to like psychology is also really strong in this particular house for you. And I think it can be a wonderful time for just a huge emotional detox and like emotional or spiritual kind of purge. And you might be like doing like sacred baths or like washes or things with Pisces in the 8th. The card that I got for you is the Six of Pentacles, which is about support and help. Okay, so I think with the North Node there, it's like, you know, like what am I getting from other people? Like, you know, I know that I've paid for this, but what are they contributing? Or, you know, this is how much something cost me, but why am I being charged this? And with the South Node going through your 2nd house now, there's supposed to be more emphasis in being like, I don't have to give away too much. So give and take is the theme of the 6 of Coins. This is about obviously generosity, and this can be about you know, sharing wealth, anything that's going to be about community and getting some kind of like material assistance. So it can mean something or someone comes in at the nick of time to help you with something, or they're giving you some kind of support and you're like, okay, I received that, you know, thank you, I received that. And it's like kind of healing and restoring the balance in your relationships. All right, so we've got Virgo and Virgo rising. For you guys, we've got the North Node conjunct Neptune in Pisces. All right, so this could be like a bit of like a double-edged sword for my Virgos and Virgo rising. So this conjunction is happening in your 7th house. It depends if you're in a relationship or if you're single. I think it's safe to say that this conjunction is a little bit easier to navigate if you are single rather than in a relationship. Because the North Node Neptune conjunction with Venus being there means that there can be a sense of connecting with somebody, meeting somebody, seeing someone, and then them turning out to be very different than who you thought they were. And if you're in a relationship, being in a relationship with somebody and then being like, okay, you know, this person is kind of hiding away, or they're isolating themselves, or they're kind of sensitive. The positive side of this is that it can manifest as like meeting some kind of divine person or somebody that seems very significant, or someone you're meant to be with or work with in some way. So it can be a new, you know, creative partner. It can be a manager of some kind. It could be like a new client or somebody that you're very interested in or who's very interested in you. Watch for, though, romantic idealism, because there can be a sense of having, rose-colored glasses on with this transit. And yes, there can be lots of creativity coming from the subconscious. And, there can definitely be like this theme where you're really focusing on spiritual unions and soulmate connections. And, you could lose yourself in relationships, basically. So what you want to watch for is codependency, idealizing partners, or losing your personal identity in someone else. And you want to seek partnerships that support spiritual growth and also maintain personal boundaries. Because this is connected to Jupiter, and Jupiter is in your 10th house, it doesn't have to completely correlate with your romantic relationships. It could also be with people you're working with, and like whether or not you're working with the right people and if you can trust some of the people that you're kind of partnering with. The card that I get is the Seven of Coins, which is interesting because there's a lot of like, am I investing my time in the right places? I think this is about long-term investments. This is about, really thinking long-term about where you're investing your time. If you can be patient with some of these people, hard work, perseverance, success, and waiting, and also being patient and planning. So, this card is basically saying like you're giving something a chance. It could be someone, it could be a client. You're giving somebody time to come around. You're giving time, to allow somebody to get back to you. You're taking your time getting to know someone. Not a bad card, but I would say pay attention when the eclipses and the retrogrades come through here, because, that's when you're going to start to see the other side of the situation in regards to a partnership, and you're going to decide whether or not this is going to be a good match for you. I've seen a lot of Virgo and Virgo risings this week that are like, my partner like left and they're not telling me where they are and they're not communicating with me. So you guys have to let me know how that's kind of going for you guys. All right, we got Libra rising. What's up, Libra? We have got the North Node Neptune conjunction happening for you in Pisces in your natal 6th house. And obviously Venus is in the mix, so this is a little bit more maybe prominent for you guys, you and Taurus. So the themes of the 6th house is healing professions, spiritual approach to daily tasks, and service to other people. What you want to watch for is neglecting personal health for others, being a workaholic and, doing it in a sense of being like, well, but I have to help other people, like that will deteriorate your health right now. And you Libra risings want to especially be careful, knowing that there's going to be eclipses going on in your 8th house, in your 12th house of rest and recuperation. You're going to have a retrograde happening in your 6th house. Like there's this whole either Libra risings that have been healing, coming out of their healing phase, getting ready to go back to work. The Libra risings who have been working a lot, or they've been doing too much, they're getting ready to slow down. And you don't want your health to have something come up that's like making you take this time, right? So with this, I would say, there's a need to integrate kind of practices into your daily routine that's going to be making time for reflection, making time for rest, making time for holistic health practices. There can also be some strange and unusual diagnoses. Like you can be having weird ailments and things, and you're like, what is this? Like, what's going on? Why am I suddenly having an allergic reaction? Or why am I suddenly, having issues getting things done or focusing? And you're going to want to pay attention to anything in regards to your pets here as well, because the 6th house is pets, and you might be feeling like there's just way too much work to be done, and that you're kind of hoping or seeking that you can find somebody who can kind of help you better organize and kind of structure your routine. This is all ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is in the 9th. So it's like about how do I make more time for travel? How do I make more time for going back to school, for writing, for publishing, for teaching, for training? And, this might be a wonderful time to be learning more about like holistic health, or maybe there's like a new health teacher or practitioner, or maybe you're using like a new app or something that can kind of help you navigate your productivity. I think that can be another way to use this. But yeah, finding something where you can be of service is going to be a theme with Venus and Neptune. Like, what are you nurturing and taking care of? Is it a pet? Is it a kid? Is it a job? Is it a hobby? Is it a family member? What is it? And then how can you find ways to do those things and get those things done, but feel like they're like little like rituals, and that, you're grateful and you're thankful for, the service that you're able to provide. Card that I get is the Knight of Swords. Okay, so this can be about you, Libra, because it's an air sign, but it can also be about a Gemini, Aquarius, or another Libra. This is a card that's about messages, and this is about your ambition and your thinking, and this is also about success. I feel like this is about taking chances, being daring. You know, sometimes this is a card that's about being a perfectionist, and maybe you feel like, you know, you're trying to not be such a perfectionist, and you're trying to kind of navigate your day in a way where you're like, I'm just going to make sure I get everything done, but do it in a flow, right? Like, you know, that's kind of the message that comes through for you. And I would say there might be people who are coming in to kind of help support you with this card. All right, so we've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. What's up, Scorpio? You know this is going to drive me crazy with the moon, right? I got to go back. It's going to drive me nuts. So Scorpio, we're going to have a North Node Neptune conjunction taking place in your 5th house in Pisces. So this is going to be in another water sign. So if you're a late degree Scorpio, Sun, Moon, Rising, it'll be trining you. So I think you'll like this transit. Basically, you know, when you have this conjunction in the 5th house, it's really putting an emphasis on creativity, romance, children, being on stage, expressing yourself, you know, dating. So the themes are going to bring up opportunities to be more creative or feeling more inspired when it comes to your own business or when it comes to a hobby or children. Your love life might get super dreamy, you know, but there can be a sense of also having some idealism when it comes to your romantic partners. It can also mean that a lot of your creativity is coming from your subconscious, and it can also be about some kind of spiritual shift in regards to children. You want to watch for unrealistic romantic expectations or losing yourself in a relationship or in art. And to navigate this, you want to channel all of these energies, all of these emotions into something creative or artistic. And you also want to make sure that you're maintaining your individuality in relationships. You want to have some kind of boundaries. 5th house could be your children. It could be your relationship to your children. It could be to a romantic partner. It could be to your hobbies. I really feel like the 5th house is also a lot about self-love. So Saturn being there isn't necessarily delaying or denying love coming from other people. It's just really reinforcing you have to love yourself. You have to be creative. You have to bring some kind of form to something that you're wanting to create, even if you have to sacrifice a little time or energy. And for Scorpio and Scorpio risings, like the Venus conjunction there is interesting because it is kind of saying like going to the next level in a relationship. And that could mean you go from being single to meeting somebody, you're like, oh my God, it's like the love of my life, to you're in a committed relationship and you decide to get married, or you're talking about having children. That can be a big theme with the 5th house transits that are going on. And obviously Jupiter's connection to all of this in the 8th house is about that emotional, psychological connection, the ability to communicate and talk about things. And maybe it hasn't been the right time to kind of discuss some of this stuff, but it might be kind of coming up for you now. The card that I got for you is the Queen of Cups. So that's great for Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and Risings, obviously, because you're a water sign. This can be saying there's some more support coming from another Scorpio, Cancer, or Pisces, but this is about being compassionate, warm, caring, and really focusing on healing and in the flow. And this is about empathy. So this is maybe for yourself, maybe it's for a romantic partner, maybe it's for a kid, maybe it's about forgiveness or kind of softening the heart and opening yourself up to a new relationship. All right, so we've got Sag and Sag rising. You guys are going to be experiencing the North Node Pisces Neptune conjunction in your natal 4th house, okay? So as with all like the mutable signs, if you're the later degrees, you might feel the squeeze a little bit. And the 4th house is dealing with your home, your family, your roots. So whether this is your home property, if it's your family, if it's something kind of connected to your past, your lineage, your ancestors, all that stuff's kind of connected to your 4th house. So this is about spiritualizing the home, connecting with ancestors, dissolving family boundaries. Watch for escapism at home, unclear family roles, or lack of grounding. To navigate this, you want to create a sacred space at your home and heal family ties with compassion, but set clear boundaries. Watch for flooding, watch for things that leak, watch for heavy emotions and kind of clearing out the past. It is possible with this connection, obviously, to Jupiter, a partner is helping you pull yourself out of the past, or they're kind of keeping you from drowning emotionally in a home or family matter, or they're helping you with designing or painting or creating, you know, your space and enlightening your space in some way. I do think that the squares to Sagittarius are also interesting because it's asking you to kind of like evolve, to grow, you know, to be active, to explore. And I really like this energy for creating like a little meditation spot or zone in your home, or putting out some incense, some water features, maybe some candles, something like that. Water and mirrors can be really helpful for kind of opening up the house. And I think a lot of Sag risings would really benefit from learning how to feng shui their home. So as you guys know, the Chinese New Year is coming up. So it would be a really great time to talk to somebody with some of these transits and get like a very mystical perspective and how to kind of like assess your home and make sure that everything flows so it's very peaceful. The card that I got for you is the Page of Swords, which can be about an Aquarius, Gemini, or a Libra, or a message that's coming to you. So I'm wondering, is the message coming from a family member? Is somebody reaching out to you? You know, is there some kind of witty back and forth conversation? Are you focusing more on, you know, being able to be connected with your family, sharing messages with your family? Can it be about some kind of opportunity to go back home or better connect with your roots or your ancestry? Possibly. All right, so we've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You guys will be experiencing the North Node Neptune conjunction in the sign of Pisces in your natal 3rd house. Obviously, I would be watching my Capricorn and my Aquarius risings, because you guys are ruled by Saturn. So the next conjunction you're going to have is going to be with Saturn in the North Node. So you're kind of getting a little bit of like a sneak peek of what you're going to be going through in a couple weeks. For the 3rd house, this is communication, cars, learning, gadgets, siblings. I think a lot of Capricorn risings are going to feel there's a lot of intuitive kind of communication going on, and that you might be learning through dreams or symbols. And I would just watch for miscommunications or being too gullible or scattered in your thoughts. Now, to navigate this, practice clear, mindful communication, engage in spiritual or creative writing. Great transit to pick up learning tarot. Great transit also to start doing some kind of intuitive development. Go for a walk, meditate, you know, listen to music or things that can kind of be like soft while you're journaling. And I feel like this is a transit where you're going to learn that sometimes speaking less and listening more is important. Sometimes also it's about reading between the lines, or it can be learning to read all of the fine print. Leases, contracts, agreements, you know, the things that people don't say but you can read with their body language. That's going to be the stuff that you're going to start picking up on. And obviously this is all ruled by Jupiter, which is in your 6th house. So there can be, for Capricorns, there can be health stuff that can come up that can be impacting your mental health, like physical health ailments, or you know, changes that are going on with your daily routine or your work. That's really pushing you to kind of communicate in a more emotional kind of way and express how you're feeling. I also feel like this is going to be about learning about healthier habits, especially things that can benefit the mind or like your mental health here as well. Okay. Pay attention when you're driving. 3rd house can be movement. So, you know, make sure you're paying attention. You're not on your phone. You're not distracted. You're not under the influence. None of those things, because this can be magnified with the North Node Neptune here. The card that I got is the Magician. I was kind of waiting to see if somebody got this card. So this is probably one of the better cards you can pull with this conjunction, because the Magician is kind of like, I don't know, it's all up in the air and like as above, so below. So if you can imagine it and visualize it, then it can be. So this talks about like being able to, you know, be more focused on creativity and a turning point when it comes to turning your dreams into a reality. And also this is going to be about your intuition. So I feel like in the 3rd house, I really encourage a lot of my Capricorn risings to learn a form of divination. Get a pendulum, get a deck of tarot cards, you know, maybe get some runes, something that you want to commit to learning. And if you're able to do that, it's going to help confirm things for you, even if you're just pulling a card, you know, before you kind of head out the door in the morning. All right, so we've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. So Aquarius, pay attention, because pretty soon Saturn's going to conjunct the North Node too. So you're already kind of feeling the effects of that maybe, because it's going to be within 10 degrees pretty soon. But that North Node Neptune conjunction is taking place in Pisces in your 2nd house. So Aquarius and Leo risings, this is going to be more financial for you guys. You guys are the ones that have to watch out more for financial scams, okay? But in this case, the 2nd house is your money. So with the North Node conjunct Neptune, this is going to be bringing up the themes of values, possessions, money, resources, spending power, and spiritual versus material values, okay? It's also about generosity and financial sacrifice. You need to watch for overspending, especially for spiritual causes, donations, or just being generous with other people, or undervaluing material security. To navigate this, balance spiritual generosity with practical financial planning, and also, I would say, value non-material wealth. I've seen a lot of North Node Neptune stuff here already, is people being like, I lost my wallet, I don't know where it went, or, you know, I threw away my debit card, you know, went in the trash, nowhere to be found, or I lost a really valuable piece of jewelry. Things can get lost here, so you want to be mindful of that. There, you can also not have a sense of awareness of what you're spending or how much you're spending, or whether or not you're also like undercutting yourself. Like, your self-worth is the second house, so you could be undervaluing yourself and not knowing your worth, and then, you know, not asking for enough money, or not asking for enough support that you're obviously owed. Anyway, this being in the second house, all ruled by Jupiter, it can be like, are you doubting your abilities to be able to create something new? Are you doubting your abilities when it comes to your resources and your ability to have fun? I think Saturn in the second house says, be resourceful, try to, you know, be a little bit more conservative with your spending habits. You don't need to spend a lot to have fun. You don't need to spend a lot to create. You don't need to spend a lot on your love life or even on your kids. And if you can get creative with what you do have and realize that you are capable, you can make some really amazing, magical things happen with Jupiter in the 5th house. Card that I get is the 7 of Cups. So you might feel like overwhelmed, where you're like, there's all these ideas that I have and I'm not sure which one I should have. Like, try not to have too many irons in the fire with this card coming up. This is about trying to have more focus on 1 or 2 projects rather than a whole bunch at one time. This is also about like having many options, many choices, or searching for your purpose, or feeling like your finances can be in a sense of like disarray, right? Like, that can definitely come up with this card as well. And watch out, because this can be talking about like going down paths that, you know, you're being kind of like misled when it comes to purchases or investments. And then last but not the least, we've got the Pisces and Pisces risings. You guys are experiencing the North Node Neptune conjunct each other in your sign in the 1st house. And this is the house of your personal identity, your appearance, anything in regards to your body, your style, your dress, all of that stuff. So positive is that you're going to have this sense of like personal like mystique about you. There can be self-dissolution. There could be major identity changes that are kind of going on right now, or kind of feeling like you're shedding all of this old skin and you're welcoming something new. You might be craving a lot of alone time. You may also be just noticing a real significant uptick in sensitivity, where you can be exhausted, but also very daydreamy or like super tapped in. What you want to watch for is losing yourself in others' perceptions, or, you know, just being in fantasy land all of the time. You know, some of you guys might feel like you're having a bit of an identity crisis. What you want to focus on is awareness practices and affirm your individuality while exploring your spiritual side. With North Node, Neptune, Saturn, Venus, it's like, it's time to idealize your perfect life, like what you want, not what your family wants, not what your parents want, not what your partner wants, not what your job wants, what you want. And remember that there is this whole reworking that's going to be going on the next couple of months with the eclipses and retrogrades, where the more you focus and prioritize on what's best for you and what's going to make you happy, and like what your vision for the future is, the easier things are going to get. You have got a retrograde in your 5th house as well, which is very much romantic and very creative. So I think you need the time and the space to be able to kind of feel inspired, even if that's a little alone. And all of this is ruled by Jupiter, which is your traditional ruler as well, which is in your 4th house of home. So you're reevaluating and asking yourself, where do I want to live? Where am I supposed to be? How am I supposed to be living my life? What do I want to look like? What kind of a person do I want to be in the world? And all of that's under construction right now. So it's okay to dream. It's okay to be sensitive, to be emotional. But what you want to watch out for is, are you getting in your own way, right? Are you unwilling to make changes? Are you unwilling to step away from certain relationships or make certain changes when it comes to your home or your living situation if you're feeling lonely and isolated? card that I get is the Ace of Swords. So I feel like the Ace of Swords is going to cut through all of that. I feel like it's about truth and honesty, and that writing can be something that can give you a lot of clarity or a lot of inspiration, or maybe just paying attention to your intuition and the stuff that's kind of coming up for you and taking notes of it. I do feel like this can definitely be about focus and having more mental clarity, and maybe that's just your goal right now. So that way you feel like you have more direction, and then you can have more success with some of these areas relating to yourself as well as your home or your living situation. I hope that's helpful for you guys in obviously what can be a rather confusing transit. As always, I appreciate your likes, your comments, your shares. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and consider sharing it on your social media. Equally, follow me at BTV Astro on X if you want to see more of my astro musings and my posts there. Pretty active on there if you guys want to connect with me. But let me know, were you born with a North Node Neptune conjunction? How do you navigate through life? What have you experienced? And where is this North Node conjunct Neptune in Pisces taking place for you? Where are you dedicating a little bit more time, energy, and also I think intuitive connection to better navigate the next couple of months? I'd love to hear from you guys in what's happening in your life, connecting to your rising sun or moon sign. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoy your Thursday. I'll catch you guys all back here tomorrow. We're going to be doing live tarot. Make sure you check the link in the community tab if you want to sign up and get a reading. I'd be happy to help you. Otherwise, I will see all of you guys very soon, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Take care.